April 12, 1961. A young Soviet pilot named Yuri Gagarin climbed into a small capsule and prepared to leave the Earth. He was 27 years old. The spacecraft was called Vostok 1. It was tight, mechanical, barely forgiving. This was not the age of smooth machines and calm reassurance. This was early spaceflight, metal around the body, pressure in the chest, silence before the launch, and one man sitting inside it, knowing that in a few moments he would go where no human being had ever gone before. All through history, people had looked upward. They watched the moon, they named the stars, they built stories around the heavens. But no one had ever risen above the world itself and looked back at it from the dark beyond. Then the rocket lifted, and Yuri Gagarin left the Earth. He rose higher and higher, sealed inside that small craft, carried beyond clouds, beyond weather, beyond the blue that every human being had ever lived beneath. And then, for the first time in human history, a person saw the Earth from space, not as a field, not as a country, not as a border, but as a world, whole, distant, suspended in darkness. The flight lasted only 108 minutes, just one orbit around the planet, less than 2 hours, and yet those minutes changed something permanent in the human story. Because after that day, Earth was no longer only the ground beneath our feet. It was also something that could be seen from outside itself, a home hanging in silence, a living world in the black. Even the return was not gentle. Gagarin did not come down cradled safely inside the capsule. He ejected during descent and came down separately by parachute. So even the journey home still belonged to that older kind of courage. Machine, risk, gravity, and a human being trusting the unknown. That is why this story still feels so large. Not only because it happened during the space race, not only because nations were watching, but because one person crossed a boundary that had never been crossed before. He went up carrying all of us with him, in a way. And when he came back, the world was still the same Earth. But human beings were no longer looking at the sky in quite the same way. After the flight, Yuri Gagarin became famous around the world. He was given some of the Soviet Union's highest honors. He later wrote a book called Road to the Stars. But he did not live to grow old. In 1968, at just 34 years old, he was killed during a routine training flight. And that gave the story another kind of sadness. The man who first crossed that boundary did not stay long on the Earth afterward, but his name never disappeared. Before the moon landings, before the famous photographs, before space began to feel almost familiar, there was one small capsule and one young man going first. Yuri Gagarin was the first human to leave Earth, circle it, and return alive. And after that day, the sky no longer felt so unreachable.